الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا تجعل الحزن والصعب إذا ما شئت سهلا اللهم آمين. And today I was asked what topic would be of an interest for our community, and I thought of this very intriguing, very challenging topic that most of the time is misperceived by parents and by the community, which is adolescence. So adolescence is an important stage in the stages of development in the the lifespan of the humans, and it is indeed the most critical stage of the lifespan. So we have different stages from infanthood to childhood to toddlerhood, childhood, and then eventually adolescence, and then adulthood, and different stages of adulthood into seniorhood, and moving forward, until we inshallah go to the real phase of our life. So alhamdulillah, that is one of the most critical stages in our life. Inshallah. We have the sisters with us and they will be sending text messages, but let's make it related to the topic of the discussion, inshallah. If they are able, and also are following me on Facebook, can you hear the voice clearly? The voice is clear, right? Yeah. On Facebook. Alhamdulillah, that's very good. Because we're using different strategy for connecting with Facebook. So back again, adolescency is a critical stage in our lifespan. And by the way, Islam pays a big attention to this stage in life. You will see that Quran spoke about it. إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. And Allah Azza wa Jalla spoke about Ibrahim alayhi salam. سَمِعْنَا فَتًى يُقَالُ لَهُ إِبْرَاهِيم. And Allah Azza wa Jalla spoke about the youthhood of Yusuf alayhi salam. And spoke about even the youthhood of Musa alayhi salam. So indeed, this stage is a very critical stage. If this stage was perceived the right way by A, the family, C, the community, and B, the society, then the ummah will be in good shape. And that's why I want to address this topic in a more compassionate way, because I deal with it a lot, and I have worked with youth for a long time in my life. I used to be running a youth group, and mashallah, all the youth that I have worked with now are in successful positions in the community. I also used to run halaqa for youth for a long time, and those who attended my halaqa right now are coming back to me and saying positive things in terms of how they benefited a lot from the knowledge that I was sharing with them and the interaction we used to have together as one group. So adolescency could be translated into Arabic language as sin al-mu'aqa, and in Quran it is described as futuwa. وإذا بلغ الأطفال منكم الحلم, as Allah Azza also described in the Quran, وابتل اليتامى حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح فإن أنستم منهم رشدا فادفعوا عليهم أموالهم. This is also mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, that when children or young people reach the age of maturity, if they happen to be orphan, and their guardian or the one who looks after them should test them out and see if they're responsible to be able to take care of their own wealth, then they should pass on their wealth to them. So again, this is a very critical stage in Islam, and by stepping into adolescency or al-futuba, you're also expected to be involved into different shara'i. That's how important it is to know it from Islamic perspective, because children are not mukallaf, they're not expected to fulfill their Islamic duties. However, once they get into the age of al-futuba, or the age of adolescence as we say it, or the puberty age as we call it sometimes in the fiqh books, then they become mukallaf, they become expected to be responsible for their own actions, they should be engaged in salah, they're liable for their shortcomings, and all the details. So you would see from Islamic perspective, fiqh perspective, there are so many things involved into this stage in one's life. Once a person gets into that stage, they need to be reminded and educated about their responsibilities in life. And with that also, there comes a lot of responsibilities, towards the society or the surroundings around them. They're starting from their family, the community, and still in the society, and the ummah in general. Excuse me. So now, what defines adolescence? What are we? When does it start? This is like a good question that many parents always ask, and many even teens start questioning when I could consider myself be an adolescent. Now, adolescence, in science or psychology, or even in medicine, they would consider it to be the age of 10 up to 19. Now, in my perspective, this stage of adolescence extends beyond the teens to tweens life, in the tweens life. I see people still acting as adolescents, quote unquote, even their 20s, because of the changes in the expectations from the society around them, and the changes of the lifestyle. Now, what defines adolescence is, from Islamic perspective, not necessarily the age, but more likely the physical and biological changes for adolescence. We know in Islam that when, al-hulum, what does al-hulum mean? Reaching the age of puberty. And what does puberty mean, or al-hulum in Arabic language? When the girl is minister, when she starts ministering, and when the boy is able to have, they have the ability to have what it dreams, basically. And that's what, al-hulum is related to from fiqh perspective. There are some fiqh issues in Islam we need to be clear about, fiqh and other things. So once these signs are defined with, boys and girls, or for, males and females, then they have already started their adolescence. Now, there are physical changes that takes along, with adolescence as they step into this stage. Physically, for girls, their voice becomes sharper, and the tone becomes higher, and for the boys, their voice becomes deeper. The facial, hair starts growing for the boys. The girls, of course, they start seeing physical changes happening to their body, and all these things would naturally happen to introduce, children to adolescence, to pave the road for them to become adults. So these are important stages that we need to be aware of as we're seeing our children progress in their life, and as we see going through this life spans different stages, as we said earlier. Now, along with these physical changes comes also other changes. What are they? I want to have interactive discussion with everyone. So what are the other changes that can happen beside the physical changes into adolescence? Any thoughts, especially for the young people? What do you think? Cognitive abilities. This is actually the most important feature of change with adolescents. Their cognitive abilities. Their cognitive abilities become extremely sharp and becomes more powerful than they were children. All of a sudden they shift from having a very basic mind activities or abilities to become have the ability to be able to process much more complicated issues. And this is what, unfortunately, many of the parents fail to understand. They deal with their children as their children. They have been dealing with them as, as children from early in their life, and they feel that they're still their children, so therefore they need to deal with them the same way they have been dealing with them since birth. That's absolutely, not healthy, because children or adolescents, once they step into their adolescency, they become more curious. They become more, capable of talking intellectually, interacting, rationally with others around them. And this is where most of the time the challenge happens with many parents. Oh, they're talking back to me. Oh, they're not being responsive. They're not, they're being difficult. Do you hear these words a lot from parents, especially for those, the imams and the community activities, and for most of the elders? Yeah, well, the reality is not they're being difficult. It's not they're being, they're asking too many questions and being smart. No, they are actually intrigued or wanted to know more, so they're able to understand. They have different, cognitive abilities now emerging into their life, and they want to know. They're curious. So take this as a learning chance and an opportunity for you to engage with your teens, rather than instructing them with, a command and what needs to be done and what they need to do. Engage with them in a discussion. You need to do this. Don't tell them you need to do this. You can say to them, this needs to be done. And automatically they will say to you, well, why? And you need to be ready to explain to them why. If you do not have a logical answer to something that you want them to do, I would recommend not to ask them. Because otherwise you'll create confusion with them, and they will be having difficulty and debating in the back of their mind between their obedience as children and as children who are supposed to be submissive to their parents, and between their curiosity into becoming more or creating understanding to the surroundings around them. Now, this is, by the way, introduced to us in the Quran. In the Quran, in the Surah Al-Kahf, which we read every week, we're reminded every week about the intellectual abilities of young people, their creativity. And that's part of why the Prophet ﷺ and Quran pays too much attention to the creativity of teens, to the creativity of the fitya. At the time of the people of the cave, Allah says about them, إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. They were teens who were living like everyone else around them, but they were thinking abstractly. They were thinking outside the box. They realized that people are not on the right path. There has to be something different for them to do in their life. And that's why they became believers, and they stood against the society around them. Ibrahim alayhi salam was also using his creativity and his innovative, creative way of thinking into, guiding people around him to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. When he debated with them, I'm going to be worshipping the sun. The sun is big, and when the sun is gone, he said, إِنِّي لَا أَحُبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. And then he said, I'm going to worship the moon, as the people around him are doing, and then the stars. And then he turns after that, and I'm turning my face to Allah Azza wa Jal. Why he questioned, his father, why he questioned the society around him. It's because he's thinking creatively. He's thinking outside the box. People, and especially the elders and all, they got used to certain lifestyle. Now, young people are more creative. That's why they ask all these questions. So you need to actually be happy for that and help them to increase their curiosity and creativity and become more involved in a positive way in their life with others around them. The story of the king and the boy, which is a story mentioned to us in Sahih Bukhari. This is one of the authentic and one of the longest hadith in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The story of the young man who was appointed for his creativity and sharpness to be trained by the magician who used to fool people at the time of the king. And this is also documented in the Quran. قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليه قعود وما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود. So this story of the people of the trench, when they were thrown in the fire trenches, is based on the story that's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari about the young man who, because of his own creativity, was able to stand against the king and dare him. You know, he said to him, I will kill you. You cannot kill me. You're not my God. You cannot end my life. He commanded his soldiers to take him to the highest mountain and throw him from the top of the mountain, and he supplicated to Allah, Allahumma ihmini bima shi'ta. Ya Allah, protect me by your will from them. And Allah made the mountain shake, soldiers fall off and they get killed, and he walked away and he went back again to the king. There the king, because he felt you know, the need to do this. And this is, by the way, introduces us to another concept about teens. Teens are, beside their cognitive ability and creativity, they're also very, I'm not sure what would be the right word to describe them. They're reckless. They are fearless. They're, you know, they don't, you know, think twice like many adults would do before they do things. They would just do it. And that's why the boy, instead of saying, oh, Allah is going to save me, let me just, you know, be smart enough, run away and go hide in the jungle or move to another country, and I'll be living my life, you know, enjoying the rest of what Allah has given me in this life. No. He felt that I need to go back again, there and challenge the king, and I'm not fear of the consequences. The same is to be said about Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was, you know, challenged to throw, they said, you know, because of what he did, let's throw him into the fire. And we know what happened to him when he was about to be thrown into the fire. And the same is to be said when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it chosen Usama ibn Zayd. Usama ibn Zayd, when he led the army, was 16 years old. Who was behind him? Umar al-Khattab and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So, you know, the cream of the crop of the Sahaba were behind a young man. But why would the Prophet ﷺ choose a young man to lead an army in a very critical, you know, mission? Because they were not going to fight, you know, tribes in the Arabian Peninsula. They were going to fight or stand against the Roman Empire. You know what that means? This is like, you know, a suicidal mission. But he knew that a young man like this would not think wise, but would be full of energy, that he's willing to do what he believes in. And that's a feature that, subhanAllah, in Islam cherishes and support in the right direction. And this is my advice normally to the, you know, to parents and to the leaders of the community. Take advantage of this massive energy that young people have inside them and utilize it in the right direction, in the right way. So, you know, this recklessness or this, you know, fearless, you know, way of dealing and seeing things is an amazing quality that needs to be cherished, not to be, denounced with teens. Now, along with that comes something that's not so healthy, at least in our perspective, which is, teens, as they look into the mirror, they see the physical changes happening to them, they become full of themselves. You know, that's why teens spend a lot of time fixing their hair, dressing up, spending more time looking in the mirror. They are so concerned about their physical appearance. Their egocentrism is so high. Their personal fable, as we call it, is big. They want to be the center of attention. That's why you go to high schools, to universities, especially for the first few years of universities. You will find, amazing things. Let's put it this way. The teens growing their hair in a way that attracts people's attention. I had some parents complain to me, "Oh, look at him! Like his hair is like, whatever." I said, "Oh, sure, what? You know what I mean? I might not be too happy with it, but that's how he thinks he can attract people's attention to him. Fine, sure." But what we need to do is somehow help them to bring people's attention to them in a positive way rather than in a negative way. That's why they dress in a certain way, that's why they walk in a certain way, that's why, they do the things that they do that can attract people's attention to them. And this is, another unique feature of adolescence. As I said, they see the fast changes in them, and that fast change comes with, again, fast also change in cognitive abilities. So you have physical power and physical enhancement, as well as you have the, cognitive, very powerful cognitive ability. But what is missing in this equation? The experience. They don't have experience.
Maturity.
Maturity, which is we call maturity, the rushd. And that's why Allah emphasizes on this in Surah An-Nisa. فإذا أنستم منهم رشدا فادفعوا إليهم أموالهم. When they become responsible, mature. So that's why it's important for parents, it's important for community leaders to accommodate and understand teens and help them benefit from their experience, and it's important for the elders to benefit from the energy and creativity of the teens. So it's mutual, need and mutual, respect. They have something to offer, and we have something to offer. But here comes again their personal fable prevents them most of the time from being able to connect with us. But we need to be, kind and generous to them, to accommodate them to the best of our abilities, and they need to trust us that when we guide them in certain ways, that we're guiding them not because we want to challenge them, but because we want the best for them. So this is the fine, line that sometimes, that we need to draw between, the two sides and somehow be able to create, creative ways to deal with it. Now, these all things that are happening in the changes the changes happening in that stage in adolescence life. And as I said earlier, it is very critical. That's why when you look into the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he said that no one will be let alone لا تزول قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربعة. You will not be let alone until you're asked about 4 things. Among him عن عمره فيما أفنى, about his life how he used, but وعن شبابه فيما أملى, about his youth how he used it. Why specifically the Prophet ﷺ was keen to talk about youthhood? Because it's the prime time in the lifespan of any human being. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal highlighted to us stories of how people in their youthhood were so creative to utilize their energy, their creativity in a positive way that made them to make a huge change in the environment around them, in the society where they belong, and made them to become unique, and they were documented in a book that will be recited until the end of life on earth. Look, for instance, we're always talking about, boys. Look, for instance, into Maryam alayhi salam. Maryam was a young woman. She's, a young woman who have, devoted her life for the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And as a result of that, she was honored. Honored not only by Muslims, by Christians as well. And, she is the only female that her name is mentioned in the Quran. She's also the female that has a chapter in the Quran, surah, completely dedicated for her story. So that speaks for how honorable, Maryam was. But she was, she was honored because of her youthhood, when she was chosen by Allah Azza wa Jal to be the mother of Isa alayhi salam. And someone will be asking, well, is that a choice? Yes, it was a choice of Maryam alayhi salam to be devoted in her ibadah, to the point that Allah had chosen her to be, the mother of Isa alayhi salam. وإذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين يا مريم اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا قال يا مريم أن لك هذا؟ قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. Maryam, because of her devotion to Allah Azza wa Jal, and the science she demonstrated to people around her, she was known to be the Siddiqa. The most honest, the trustworthy, the chastity, the iffah. And that's why when Bani Israel, when she gave birth to Isa alayhi salam, and she brought, the baby to them, she said, Ya Maryam, what's this? We know you to be a devout abida in the Masjid al-Aqsa. What happened to you? She referred to him and she said, let him speak. And then he spoke and we know the story. But the point I'm trying to make here, that Allah Azza wa Jalla have honored Maryam for her devotion in her life, and Allah Azza wa Jalla, documented her contribution in the Quran. And that should be also a message for the young girls, for the young ladies, for the girls, to be mindful that it's not only for boys, it's also for girls. It is something that we need to, acknowledge also as a community, as parents, that's also the contribution. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, that the female is not like the male. We're giving more attention and honor to the female, the one who makes the man as a man. And she is the Isa alayhi salam was the product of Maryam alayhi salam. She's the one who taught him and should have raised him and took care of him until he became a prophet of Allah. And also look into the model that was introduced to us in Islamic tradition with Aisha radiallahu anha. We know that Aisha got married to the Prophet at the early stages. And one of the most beautiful things about that is she protected and preserved the knowledge of the deen. 2/3 of the ahadith, if I'm correctly remember the ratio, were reported to us through Aisha radiallahu anha. Because she was young, she was created, and she had the ability to capture the knowledge of the deen. When the Sahaba would have an issue, they would go to Aisha and they would ask her about the most critical and specific issues of the deen. So this speaks to how Islam gives attention and give a lot of focus into this specific stage in the lifespan of a human. Look, for instance, to Ali radiallahu anhu, who grew up in the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what was his contribution to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. How the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also had chosen him to be, the one who would conquer the Khaybar, fortresses. And how he, become from the Khulafa al-Rashidin. Look into, Abdullah ibn Abbas, the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who also creatively used his talents and his youthhood into collecting the knowledge after the Prophet's death, and became after that the Habr of the Ummah, the source of knowledge for the Ummah. So you can see that Islam pays a huge attention to the youth and adolescence, unlike what we're seeing nowadays. Nowadays, unfortunately, the youth are being misled into going after role models. Now you will see most of young people are looking to what's so-called stars. They are in social media following trends. 6'7". You know what that means? Yeah. What about you? Where's young people? Yeah, what do you think? Do you know what 6'7" means? You've seen it in social media? What's the big deal? But that's what young people always love to do. They want to, something, catchy, something that brings the attention, something. Well, yes, you are, with these features, but utilize them and use them in the right way. Use them in a way that will help you to serve the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So rather than having someone to be your role model that has no understanding why he's living and what he's living for or she's living for, choose someone to be your role model that will lead you to Al-Jannah, inshallah, and will lead you to a Firdaus al-A'la min Al-Jannah. Like what happened to the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who the Prophet ﷺ gathered them in the house of Al-Arqam in the midst of Jahiliyyah, because the Prophet used to gather the youngsters, the adolescents of Mecca, in the house of Al-Arqam, who was a teen by himself. He was from the regular tribe of Bani Hashim. He was from Bani Mahzoum. But he took that risk again to host the Prophet ﷺ in his own house, not too far from Mecca, because his house was by Safa. Do you know what are the consequences for him to be caught hosting the Prophet with the youngsters of Mecca to learn the deen by Abu Jahl, the leader of Bani Mahzoum, would be to be killed. That was the consequences. But because of his creativity as a young man, his fearless attitude, and his love to take challenges, he became engaged with the Prophet ﷺ, and he became one of the pillars of this deen. So rather than going in the wrong path, look into the right role models for you in your life. Look into the literatures of Islam. Look into the different, giant and heroes, as the Prophet ﷺ, أصحابي كالنجوم بأيهم اهتديت اقتديت. My companions are like the stars. Whoever you choose as a source of guidance, you're guided. So let your guide or role model be Ali. Let your role model be Aisha radiallahu anha. Let your role model be Maryam alayhi salam. Let your role model be Abdullah ibn Abbas or Abdullah ibn Umar. Those giants who have devoted their youthhood and invested in it to create them afterwards to be giants in Islam. And they became role models for others around them. Now, that has been said, and I want to leave some time for interaction, and I hope that we will be having some interaction, especially from the sisters' side, because they're the one who deal with our children all the time, and they're the one who have a lot of questions that related to their interactions with teen, because they're more involved with the teens than the parents most of the time, than the fathers. What it takes to create a decent adolescent. What are the factors that we can look into to create a decent adolescent? First of all, there are some factors that we have no choice on, which are the genetic makeup that we inherit from our parents. Every one of us inherited something from the parents, we pass it on to our children. And these are, choices that we have no control on. But these genes that we carry from our parents need the right environment to be activated. So there are genes that do not activate in our life, or activate, very poorly. But there are other genes that activate it highly in our life. So there comes the role of the family into creating the right incubating environment to create a youth that is, very connected with his or her deen. And we will see that again happening in the life of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een afterwards. And we see it even in the present time when we look at, a model like Gaza. In the past 2 years, many of us were astonished from seeing children, literal children, of both male and female, speaking on social media, inspiring people like myself, inspiring so many of the leaders of the Ummah, inspiring the scholars of what they say. What is behind that? What made these people, be that creative? The other day there was reported through Al Jazeera that one of the teens in Gaza had the second highest mark of the high school graduation. Back home, the system, they have a general exam to be passed, to be taken, to graduate from high school, unlike the system here. So there's a very strict a test that they have to take. So similar to the test you go when you go to mid school or to law school, you have to take a specific test with all the subjects you have studied. So this test is universal. It is between Gaza and Al-Dhafar, the West Bank, and I think it's to a certain extent even similar to Egypt and to Jordan, because those are one region. So this young man, mashallah, took the second highest, mark among these people. Though he was living in war for 2 years, yet it did not stop him from being focused and determined into getting the second highest mark in the country. So that speaks for the energy, the ability, the creativity, the determination, the focus, all the things. So it took not only a family, but it took a community to create such models in our community, in the Muslim Ummah. I was listening to another talk talking about the role of masajid in the life of the teens in Gaza. The parents were so focused into creating the right environment for their children, planting and feeding them the love of Allah and the love of Ledina and the love of the Quran. Quran, was in the hearts of almost every child, every teen in Palestine, in Gaza specifically. And this love of the Quran and memorization of the Quran translated to action afterwards. Because they were not only fed words, they were fed knowledge as well as words, and it translated into actions in their life. So it first started with the family, and then after that with the environment, extended after that, which is the masjid, the mosque, and then the society or the community in which they belong to. Now, I want to go back a little bit and speak more specifically about the role of the family. Now, we think that, parents need to be educated, they need to do, a lot of, teaching to their children. It is important and it's essential, but there's something that is less, more important, but less challenging for any parents to do in their life and the life of their teens, which is to provide a safe environment for their children. What do I mean by safe environment? I mean by safe environment to provide an environment that's healthy enough for children to feel that they connect with their parents. One of the major problems that are happening right now, not only in our community, across the world, because we're living in a global village, teens do not feel safe at home. And when I say that they do not feel safe at home, they're not expecting someone to knock them down at home or someone to attack them from outside. They don't feel safe because they're not seeing a safe relationship between their mom and their dad, between the husband and the wife. When there's no safe relationship and a clear relationship between the mom and the dad, as a result of that, the children will grow in an unsafe environment. That unsafe environment translates into so many problems in the life of the teens. Will be expressed after that in depression, anxiety, and so many other psychological problems that would be, that would make children, suffer from in their life. So the most important, favor you can do to your children as a parent is at least to create safe, healthy environment for them by connecting with your spouse in a more superior way, and not to get the children involved into the fights and disputes between the husband and the wife. Have you heard about parental alienation? It's a very destructive, unfortunately, problem that exists a lot in most of the families, across the board. We're not talking about the Muslim community, whereby a war takes place between two sides, and children are used as weapons into fighting that war. The children become so confused, they become torn apart, and they would be questioning their loyalty to one parent against the other parent, and it creates a lot of anxiety and problems for them. I have a good number of cases of children come to me destroyed literally as a result of what's happening between the mom and the dad. And that it probably becomes even worse when the mom and dad separate, and then they take their fight from home to the court. And then the legal system gets involved, the Children's Aid Society gets involved, the child lawyer gets involved, and different other legal entities gets involved, and it becomes chaotic. Because the focus will be into getting myself out of the legal battle safe, and they care less about my mental health of the children, or the mental well-being of the children psychologically.
Some of them make suicide even.
Brother, I don't have to expose my clients, but I have seen suicidal cases. I have seen children coming crying to me, saying that they're getting to that stage. That's how destructive this is. As an adult, you should be responsible enough to keep your own problems for yourself. Even if you were to have issues with your spouse, keep them for yourself. Keep the discussion private between the two of you. What you would show to your children, show them the love, the care, that both parents love you, both parents care about you, and we want the best for you. It could not be the same, between the husband and wife. That's fine, because eventually Allah has created the possible differences. But this is our test, is to see how we shrug off our differences and we become superior and we ignore our own ego and become more humble and more caring for our children. Because we look into most of the problems happening between the parents, it's about ego. It's all about ego, nothing else. Oh, how dare she? Oh, why he's not? Oh, why she's not? Well, who cares? Once you took the vow, I do, then you have become responsible for taking care of the children because they are your amana. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. Protect yourself and your children from fire. And the Prophet said, كلكم راع كلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. So do not, betray the amana that Allah has given to you by acting irresponsibly at home. Whether a mom or a dad, because whatever you say and whatever you expose will impact the children's psychology and would make them either become healthy, effective individuals or otherwise whatever. So it is very important to create that safe environment. Even if you were to end up having problems on yourselves or disputes among yourselves, make it very clear it's nothing about you because of the egocentrism of children. They end up feeling that they are responsible for what's happening between their mom and dad. I've heard it from so many of their children. Oh, I feel that I am responsible for this. It's because I did this or I did that, my parents are fighting. Or because I did this and that, my parents are divorced. Irrational, logic, but that's exactly how they feel about it. And unfortunately, it gets into so many problems afterwards in their life. I have adults who are in their 50s and their 40s come to me, they're dealing still with their childhood traumas, and they were unable to resolve it. That's how critical it is. And that's why it's important to put your own ego under your own feet and be more responsive and responsible about your children and provide the best for them and ignore your own needs and wishes, because nowadays it's becoming, I'm not getting anything from my relationship. I'm not getting what I want. The pleasure, the joy is not there. Well, who cares about your pleasures and joys? Who cares about you? Yes, you're expected to have طمأنينة, مودة, رحمة, سكينة, but you're not expected to have lust and joy. Because that's what it comes to the end, at the end of the day. Many of the problems between the parents have become as a result of this. They lost focus. And as a result of that, they lost their children. I know we have until Fajr, but when should I stop?
You don't need to stop.
I don't need to stop. Okay, very good. I got the green light, mashallah. 6:30, mashallah. I'll try to sum up inshallah before that. And because I need to leave some time for questions as well. Now that's what's at home. What's outside home and the impact of it and the influence of outside factors. I don't think anyone can avoid to talk about social media. Social media is, unfortunately misused and abused by those giant companies. Why do you think they provide a free platform for teens to be able to express themselves? I mean, common sense. Let's think about it. Are these people, mashallah, they're so kind, they want to do charity? I can assure you they're not about the charity. They're about making money. The same, tactic used by casino companies are used by the social media companies to lure, people into them. And unfortunately, the teens are those who are most impacted and affected by social media. And they're indirectly, especially video games and and social media. So it consumes their mind's energy and it consumes their time and it creates a lot of dysfunctionality in their life. So please teens, take it my word. Though I would love to be, on social media, and I love people to follow me and to click the like and share and ring the bell and all the details, because it creates oh my gosh, I got like this number of followers. At the end, this is not gonna create for you a profession that can provide money enough for you to live a decent life. You have a bigger and better role to live in this life, which is to serve Allah Azza wa Jal. And part of your serving to Allah Azza wa Jal is to be an effective, individual in your life. And to be an effective individual in your life, you have no choice. You need to exceed in your academic life and professional life. And you need to be rich. Because many of the people think, being passive, being poor, being this is what Islam proves. No. Those who are promised al-Jannah in their life were rich people. أبو بكر رضي الله عنه ما لقى أحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ما ضر عثمان صار بعد اليوم. الرحمن بن عوف also the same thing. So you need to be rich, it's not a choice. You need to be the best of the best, on the top of your, of everyone in your profession, or the field of your profession. So that would be only possible if you were to roll your sleeves and be focused and get the best out of your life. Now, the last part I want to cover quickly, inshallah, is the role of the masajid. Forgive me, for being blunt. The masajid should take more, active role into creating more meaningful programs for our children. They need to be creative, they need to be recreational, they need to be stimulating, they need to be, in a way that attracts them. And we have so many young, influential, educated people in our community who have the knowledge of the deen and the knowledge of the dunya as well. Let them be in, let them get involved, let them get into the masajid, let them learn the deen. Because after all, you cannot expect them to be da'i to the deen of Allah if you don't feed them the knowledge they need it. And let's, work on that dimension. Let's empower the children and the teens and let them take the leadership role. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, remember what I said? Teens have the energy, the creativity, but they miss what? Experience. We have the experience, but we have no energy. For Allah's sake, now I go to the gym and I stay in the bed for 2 days after that. I recover from my cold sickness then after that to have another cold sickness. Every once in a while, I have muscle ache, I have a stiff shoulder. خلاص, it's enough. Yes, we do have the knowledge, but we don't have the energy. Let the energy be, introduced to us through the new generation. Let them be, let's use their creativity into giving them and give them the chance to, create the best out of the best. But again, teens, you have, think about the most powerful computing machine on the earth. What's it like? iCore what? 9 now, or what's the latest iCore, machine or computing machine?
7.
7 is the latest.
I think so.
Oh, so I thought they meant more than that. You have the most powerful i7 core, whatever it is, with double and all the things you can think of. The best of the best, right? 6, 7. But you don't have the best. But you don't have the best operating system. What's the benefit? Useless. Or you have the most powerful, computing machine with the most powerful software, but you don't have applications. Useless. So you need to have everything together, and that would be by connecting, with the elders, and the elders connecting with the young, and creating this, beautiful dynamic which created historically, easily, without any problems. It's only in the modern society we have this problem, by the way. At the previous, times, there was no problems. Everything was blending fine. Everything was connecting well. There's respect from the young to the old, and there's rahmah from the old to the young. Everything's working fine. It's only this introduction of the Western, civilization or ideology, which is spread through mass media because we live in a global village, that have created and ruled everything. With this, inshallah, I'm going to stop because the time is coming to 6:30. If there are any comments or questions to the topic, let's inshallah introduce them. And inshallah, we'll conclude after that. And after this, we will hit the biryani. Is it biryani?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Biryani is what we have in dunya. Let's call it biryani halaqa. That's what I used to call the halaqa when I used to do it. We have biryani halaqa. Alhamdulillah. Because with biryani, you have everything. With cheese, you have creativity. With biryani, you have everything. Alhamdulillah.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
My son or girl, they have an affair with different religions. How we can handle in Islam?
Very important topic, but I can't introduce it in a short time. By the way, I am reluctant to say this. I have been working to publish my first book, which is about pre-marriage. And in that book, inshallah, if Allah wills, should be ready within the next couple of weeks. Once I have it done, inshallah, it's in e-format. I don't want to print it out because I want to make it accessible for everyone, especially for the young people. I talk about a lot of important issues. Among them, this issue of having a relationship outside the marriage. There's a chapter dedicated for this in my book, and I show scientifically. My book is, by the way, based not only on Islamic knowledge, it's about science and Islamic knowledge. So I will be introducing Islamic concept supported and endorsed by psychological research and neuroscience, facts. So it is proving that the relationships that outside the legal boundaries of Islam creates a lot of problems down the road. Why? Because your threshold, your perspectives, your bar will be confused. And a big percentage of those relationships before marriage will end up having not very happy relationship during their marriage. Why? Because they feel like, oh, she's doing this, oh, he's doing this, oh, that reminds me of what happened in that house. And there are some researchers, supporting these facts. I don't have all the statistics on the number really, but they're all in my book, alhamdulillah. So this is a very important topic. And by the way, just quickly, I emphasize a lot on the involvement of the parents in the selection process for marriage. Why? Because studies show that those who are under the influence, those in love, quote unquote, and I don't like to use this word, and those who are in drugs have the same mind function. Their frontal lobe is completely hijacked. So the same impact you get when you hit the door is what you will get when you are in a relationship. Which means that you are unable to take a major decision in your life, a very critical decision will impact the rest of your life. Because it's not about the next couple of months, it's about the rest of your life with your children. So think clear and use the support and help of those who are around you, the elders, the wisdom, so you're able to take the right decisions.
So I know that you do the youth counseling,
Yeah.
but also do the parent counseling.
Well, that's what I meant to do for today. Yes, I do, provide both, youth and adult counseling and therapy.
Your parent counseling, want to share some major point that is creating the couple problem, the husband and wife. And the other thing is this one, before marriage, there is any selection process was wrong. Because I was presenting at this thing since that choose your partner. That is in English side I had to do presentation, but I don't know in the Islamic way. There's anything before marriage that select what you want, because after marriage you don't need to think, oh, I made a mistake because you didn't do this, you did this, I should have think about you do this. So is there any selection process before marriage as partner has to be?
Yes, again, as I said, there's 18 chapters in my book talking about, what and how and what our selection process based on scientific facts, based on research and studies, and neuroscience facts, I should say. And in this, you have like some guidelines, and I hope that teens are able to get this message from me. Trust your old man, trust your old woman, because they're the one who cares a lot about you. If you're having difficulties to trust them, then trust the imam with wisdom in your community. This is the most important message. By the way, inshallah, in probably a month's time, I should have my second book, which is about the dynamic of the family, which talks about the issues after marriage. How to create a more healthy dynamic in the family, and how to deal with the problems, which will be inshallah coming in the third book. The materials is already, I'm just waiting for the editors to finish their work, and the designers. There's a lot of process. This is my first time doing this, but there's a lot of work needs to be done in the background. The materials is ready. First, second, third, pre-marriage, post-marriage, and problems of marriage and the family. But it's just the process of getting all the materials ready for publishing, inshallah. And I'll keep you posted as well on this, inshallah. Maybe we can allow our next halqa time will be talking about the family dynamic, and the third one will be probably talking about the problems which are heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see how much children are suffering, how much each side suffering, and how when we lose our taqwa and our iman and our deen, and we become so focused on ourselves, I, myself, how we destroy everything around us and eventually destroy ourselves. But when we put our own ego under our feet and we stay, connected or be more focused on taking care of the amana that Allah has given to us, then things will change. So does that answer your question, Akhi? In terms of, yes, the pre-marriage determines what you will see in your marriage, and the two are interconnected. Having a proper selection process will help you to have a healthy family dynamic, but at the same time you need to invest more in your healthy dynamic relationship to create a more, create a harmonious relationship that provides the healthy incubating environment for the children and for yourself as well, inshallah. Any things from the sister's side? Yes, go ahead, please.
So this one sister is asking about giving some tips. How the kids can be involved in the masjid, how youth can be more involved in the masjid. Some tips.
Tips on how to be merciful of children? I mean, listen, the Prophet ﷺ demonstrated that to us, and even in the ayah that we all thought about the relationship or marriage, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Rahmah is what makes life livable. Rahmah is what adds a touch to life. ما يرسل الله من رحمة فلا ممسك له وما يمسك فلا مرسل له من بعده. Rahmah will be demonstrated in connecting with your children. The Prophet ﷺ was once, seen kissing his own grandchildren. A man came to him from the Bedouins. He said, "You kiss your children?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I have, 11 or 10 kids. I haven't kissed any of them." He said, "What should I do if Allah took away the rahmah from your heart?" He demonstrated that rahmah in the way he used to interact and play with his own children, with his own grandchildren. Look into the rahmah that was created in his family dynamic that was translated into actions afterwards with his own children. Look into the dynamic between Ali radiallahu anhu and Fatima radiallahu anha. Now, Ali radiallahu anhu, wrote poetries about his love to Fatima. Now again, I want to be careful about using the word love, because I hate to use that word because of the misuse that has been, for that word in nowadays. It's not about lust, it's about care and love. It's about rahmah and mercy. Because, Fatima and Zainab and the rest of the children of Prophet grew up in the household of the Prophet. And my Jum'ah khutbah yesterday was about this, by the way. So check it out also on social media. It's about what they were, absorbing from the dynamic between their mom and their dad. The Prophet ﷺ, whenever he sees Fatima, he would stand up for her and give her a hug and kiss her on the forehead. That's the real rahmah. Real rahmah translated in nowadays, terminology, would be to give the time to connect with your children. Communicate with them based on their own level of understanding. Do not expect them to jump to your level, and at the same time try to help them catch up and grow from the level they're in. And the rahmah would be to make them feel that you truly love them and truly trust them in their life. You know, one of the things that I have seen in my practice is the biggest trauma and hurt that children have because they don't feel the love of their own parents to them. And the hatred they have against their own parents is unbelievable. Why? Because they have anger problems, for instance. Anger is a problem that needs to be resolved. If you're able to resolve it, get some professional help. Many professionals now are offering tips and hints on how to deal with anger issues. Many therapists are giving a lot of informative information that can help you to change and transform your life into a more meaningful one. So the short answer to this is make them love you. Love them, and that love and security you create in their heart is the biggest gift you can give to them. If they were able to create that, alhamdulillah, anything else is feasible, is manageable. Be merciful and kind to them. Do not let your own ego be the tool for parenting. Your parenting should be based on love and care. Do not expect your child, don't take the issue personally. I told you not to do this. Well, yes, he's not able to understand what you need from them. If they are able to understand that, show them how to do what needs to be done, and they will be able to do it. Talk to them rationally. You need to do this because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't expect them to just blindly listen to you as they were able to do it in their childhood. Because when they were infant and children, you were able to instruct them. Now you cannot instruct them anymore. Now you need to communicate with them more effectively.
I think the question was some tips for the youth to get involved in the mercy. But yes,
For
adolescent.
For adolescents?
Tips for adolescent to get involved in the mercy.
Oh, and in the masjid. I'm sorry, because I'm wearing my earbuds, and I'm having difficulty to hear people around me. So getting involved in the masjid, youth, if I were you, I would sleep in the masjid. I would live in the masjid. In the masjid, دار كل تقي. There's a hadith around this meaning that the masjid is the house of every taqi, muttaqi. Why in the masjid? Because, if you go outside and hang around with your friends at night until 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, and in places that are known to be, the least we can say about them, not so healthy. Like going to the malls, going to the down the street and hang around with your friends. You are following the faith of your own friend. الأخلاء يومئذ بعضهم لبعض عدو إلا المتقين. Friends will be enemies to each other in the day of judgment, except for the muttaqin. The best friendship you can have, the most nurturing friend environment you can have is in the masjid. And that goes back again to the management of the masajid to create more meaningful recreational activities for teens so that they're able to come and spend their time here. Yes?
So the same things about the adolescence. The adolescence is between children and adult.
Yeah.
Between age 9 to 19.
Right. It's a transition period. Exactly.
This is, the children is not really thinking about I should go to the masjid connected because the parents has to encourage or some other encourage. The parents is always in the ego and ego. He doesn't even think about the children sent to this. I know this on that in Dawah. The Rasulullah give a dawah to the adult people that come to the masjid, the religious. But what Islam said about, look about the young people. Are you okay in the house? Are you good with the family? Or do you need an alternative to come to the masjid? Is Islam or anything? This third party is thinking about this children does not know what to do. Go to masjid because he's on the 9 and 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you that many teens don't find the masjid as stimulating for them as it should be. But if somehow we can encourage them, we can guide them and convince them, we can create more creative. Let's think like in marketing. Many masajid cannot use marketing strategies to bring the youth into the masjid. That's something to think about. As I told you, why they hang around with their friends until 2 o'clock in the morning in the malls? Because they find no one to guide them. They find nothing stimulating for them into staying with their families or they're going to the masjid. But if there's Qiyam al-Layl program, they will probably be happy to attend it. If there's something that's more stimulating for them, they will go for it. Last question.
One person from the sister side.
Yes, yes.
Some mothers don't know how to communicate with youth when dad does not get involved.
Some mothers do not go
How to communicate with their kids or young, the
adolescence
when dad does not involve.
when
Dad.
that does not involve. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, again, we are not born educated. We're not born with built-in, softwares. We need to learn. So if any parent feels challenged in the way they're, communicating with their children, reach out for help. There's tons of available resources, Islamic resources online that you can benefit from. If not, we have we have resources in our community. I'm not promoting my business, but there are so many professionals who have benefits. They don't use their benefits. Your benefits can be available for you to use professional services. Use them. Even if you don't feel that they're highly needed, well, there's nothing to prevent you from enhancing. And please, parents, communicate with each other. Communicate in a way that would help you to create a much healthier environment that can make you able to connect with your team. Because when the teens are disconnected from communicating with their parents are not involved because they don't feel safe or comfortable to be at home. Why they're not feeling comfortable and safe to be at home? Because there's unhealthy dynamic between the two sides. Now, can we deal with that unhealthy dynamic and create much more healthy dynamic? And if we're able to create that, then you will feel the flow of communication between the parents and then eventually spills on the children. That's one of the ways to deal with it.
You talked about anger.
Yes, anger.
Have the anger management like that. How to manage the anger management and everything.
Well, in our children, there are so many therapists who are skilled in dealing with this, and it boils down to behavioral and cognitive. Behavioral is to try to look into why you're triggered to be angry, and how can you change your response to that anger in a way that's more healthy. And cognitively and spiritually, into looking into how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with this. When a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, advise me. He said, don't get angry. He said, advise me, don't get angry. He repeated that 3 times. There are tactics that someone can do. If you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting down, lay down. If you're able to go do wudu, then you are able to get rid of the influence of shaitan. Why when someone, get angry, their face become red or they glow? Because shaitan is fire. He runs in your bloodstream and he creates that, for you. So if you're able to extinguish the power of shaitan, then you're able to do it. But also look into the factors that lead you to the anger. There's stress factors that can make you always on the edge, always in fight and flight mode, as we call it. So if you're able to deal with the factors or the elements that contributes to your anger, then you're able to diffuse the anger. Anger should be, goes from 1 to 9. 1 to 7 is healthy, because that motivates you to keep, do things in your life. Once it gets to 8, then it's in red. 9 is explosion, 9 is reset. So you need to be mindful of how to contain and maintain your anger level between 1 to 7. Don't let it go to 7. And there are some issues you can do to reduce your anxiety and stress. Mindfulness salah, for instance. Mindfulness recitation of the Quran, coming to the masjid, changing lifestyle, go to the gym. How many of you go to the gym on a regular basis? Good for you. We think it's bid'ah. It's not bid'ah. You need to, exercise to burn the extra energy, chemicals, refresh your mind. This is one of the ways you'll be surprised here that can reduce and contribute to your anger management, or to someone's anger management. I know I should stop now, it's up to you. I can go to the
One last thing. So the first person I showed you on my phone, it's not related to this topic, but there's a person about, when people get into the mosque, pray to Salah.
Well, unexpected, the Prophet said, do not sit down until you offer Salah, whether it's a sunnah or
Some people is recommending not to do that for us. specifically for us? Is there any restriction?
No, Asr, you can do sunnah for Asr. رحم الله امرئ صلى قبل العصر أربعة. You can, you give rahmah of Allah if you pray for Asr. So, but let's not get caught into the, fiqh details that would create, tension, and we focus on the core. The core is that we have a lot to work on as an ummah, that, and create much healthier environment for ourselves in the masjid and outside the masjid, inshallah. With this, as I said, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والعصر السلام عليكم. And for those who are interested, my practice is Al-Iman Family Services. Al-Iman Family Services, it's AIFS.ca. So it's IFS.ca. Be careful, not ISIS, IFS. Just don't want you to get into trouble.
He's going to get some copy of your books, huh?
Inshallah, unless I have them, inshallah, send them to the message. Inshallah. And it will be available on my website. So if you go IFS.ca, AIFS, Apple International Frank Sun.ca.
Is it the PDF?
It's an